Hi dear students, welcome to La Excellence IS Academy. Today, let's discuss the news articles of 13th September 2020. So the first article that we are going to discuss is more logistic pacts on the card. So here, before we further, what is this logistic pact? See, India is trying to sign a logistic pact or an agreement with other countries. So whenever our naval forces or our air forces wants any logistic support like food, water, transportation, airlift, clothing, communications, and medical services, we can utilize the services from other countries. So that is where we call it as logistic pact. As we have seen in the news recently, India and Japan have signed logistic agreement. So with this, we are upgrading our maritime cooperation and our relationship with Japan. So this will be a mutual benefit for India as well as the Japan. Because with this agreement, we will be able to obtain these reciprocal provisions of supplies and services. So whenever we are engaged in bilateral activities or United Nations peacekeeping operations or any international relief operations, so we can utilize these services and supplies. Moving further, the purpose of all these logistic pacts are to ensure that they get the logistic support of services and supplies at the time of need. So therefore, India and Japan have signed the agreement with the name Acquisition and Cross-Servicing Agreement. India and Russia has signed Agreement on Reciprocal Logistic Support. India and Australia has signed Mutual Logistic Support Agreement. And this is not the very first time India is signing such kind of agreements. So we can also see over here where India has signed Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Understanding Agreement way back in 2016 with United States. Indian Navy is said to be the biggest beneficiary of this. So nowadays, India is increasing its relationship with the Quad countries. So therefore, you can also see with respect to information sharing on the maritime domain awareness also, India is moving further. So one such example for that is with respect to the Malabar exercise. So where the long-standing demand of Australia to be part of it is being informally accepted by the Indian government. Along with all this logistic support, so India also has signed this Communication Compatibility Security Agreement with United States. So with this, India is further empowered to encrypt the communication systems for seamless communication. So thereby, you can say India is trying to strengthen its defense and military capabilities. Let's move on to the next article. Any non-political body can get FCRA exemption. It should be in the public interest as said by the Home Ministry. See, before we move further, we need to understand one thing. What is FCRA? FCRA is a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. See, way back in 1976, it was the Indira Gandhi government which introduced or which passed this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. As per this act, they have prohibited electoral candidates, political parties, judges and MPs, even the cartoonists from accepting the foreign contributions. So why they stopped foreign contributions? Very simple reason is through this foreign contribution they may create a domestic turbulence. So to avoid such kind of things, so they prevented the political parties from accepting the foreign sources. So later on with the 1991 economic reforms, so we started accepting the foreign funds from World Bank, IMF as well. As economy got liberalized, political parties, business houses, everyone started accepting this for foreign contributions. But however, as you know, as per the provisions of the Act, political parties are not supposed to accept this. The biggest political parties, that is Congress, BJP, they were alleged that they were taking the foreign contributions. So then what they did, when it was questioned in the Supreme Court, they passed an amendment to the FCRA Act with the finance bill stating that so they can accept the foreign contribution if that company is existing in India or if it has 50% of presence in India. So with this amendment, they justified whatever violations they had made earlier. So moving further, in 2010, there was one more change that was brought up, that FCRA registration earlier was as a permanent nature. But however, recently what they have made is the registration will be valid only for 5 years. Suppose any organization or any political parties are violating the norms, then in such a case the registrations can be cancelled. The second restriction that was put forth on them is they shall not utilize more than 50% of the revenue or the foreign funds that is coming for administrative expenses. See, with this, government is trying to control how exactly a civil society has to spend their money. See, they do not have an autonomy to spend their money as well. This is what the scenario created with FCRA 2010. Moving further, the one more important thing what they did is, earlier it was restricted or it was limited to political parties only. Now they have increased the scope of the act, and they have brought in organizations of a political nature. So this is where many organizations have come under the FCRA regulation. Having understood about the FCRA, you can see over here Home Ministry, which is an implementing body of FCRA, so they are giving exemptions to certain funds. So here you can see that Prime Minister National Relief Fund has been exempted, as like that PM Cares also has been exempted. The central government with a notification has ensured that any organizations or entities which is created by the Central Act or the State Acts which are compulsorily audited by the CAC, all are exempted under the FCRA regulation. See, this is not of much importance to you, but what is most important to you is how FCRA is trying to regulate NGOs. Moving further, we have one more article in today's newspaper, that is foreign funds and NGOs. Before we move further, we have already understood what is FCRA. Now, what is NGOs? NGOs, as the name implies, non-governmental organizations. They are not part of the government and they are also not for-profit business organizations. See, they are the one who works at the grassroots level. They are the voice for voiceless community. In India, if we have to say, we have one of the largest number of active NGOs. So, say Sumar, 33 lakh NGOs are actively functioning in India. If we have to say, as per the population limits, so then for every 400 people, we have one NGO which is functioning in India. So this is the magnitude of NGO, and that's where government is trying to use NGOs for implementation of various schemes and programs. So the NGO's source of fund, one, it comes from the various ministries for implementation of the program. Second thing is it will accept donations. So internally, donations that is accepted by NGOs will be audited. Whereas if NGOs are accepting donations from the foreign, then in such a case, they shall not obtain anything more than 25,000. Okay, so if they have to receive anything more than 25,000, then they have to be registered under Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. As I've already told, now with 2010 amendment, if NGOs has to get registered if they have to accept foreign contribution, and the registration will be mandated only for the 5 years. Every 5 years they have to undergo the procedure of registration. So now, why is this article in news? It's because recently 13 NGO have been suspended under Foreign Contribution Regulation Act by Ministry of Home Affairs. What is the reason? The reason is clearly not spelled out. Sometimes they give a reason as public interest, sometimes it is adversely affecting the economic interest of the state, and in some scenario they gave the reason that is detrimental to the national interest. So therefore, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act has strengthened the hands of executive. Thereby it has reduced the voice of civil society organization trying to restrict these organizations in the name of national interest, public interest or economic interest, thereby curtailing their rights of freedom of speech and expression and freedom of association. This way, government is largely trying to control the donations that we are receiving from US-based Compassion International, Ford Foundation, World Movement for Democracy, Open Society Foundations, National Endowment for Democracy. And all these list donors have been put under the watch list or the prior permission category, barring them from sending money to the association without MHA's permission. See, this article is very important for you from the perspective of mains, especially as you know in the GS paper 2 we have NGO, role of NGO and civil society organization. So you can use it how government is trying to control the civil society or voice of the civil society by using the various regulations like FCRA. Move on to the next article. Discom's liquidity lane to raise to 1.2 lakh crore. See, in India, we have Discoms facing a huge trouble. So that's where we are increasing the loan amount. Earlier, around 90,000 crore liquidity package was given to them. So now we are increasing it to 1.2 lakh crore. So before we understand further about this article, what is this Discoms? Discoms are electricity distribution companies. See what they do, these distribution companies will sign an agreement with the power generating companies. So what is this agreement called as? It is called as power purchase agreement. So they'll promise that they will be purchasing the power whatever is generated by the generators. So then what happened, as you all are well aware, because of COVID-19 and lockdown, every economic activity was shut down. So all of a sudden the demand for power supply collapsed. So then these distributors cannot negotiate this PPA as in India because these agreements are not flexible enough. So we cannot renegotiate this. So because of this, Discoms are facing a huge brunt. Along with it, the one more challenge to the Discom company is the challenge of power theft. So then moving further, the other challenge what they face usually is this. So we have a cross subsidization. So what do I mean by cross subsidization? So you know, households charges, the charges what we impose for households is different compared to the charges that we are imposing imposing on the commercial and industrial consumers. So we are imposing heavy tariffs on them. Government, understanding this situation of Discoms, had come up with Uday scheme, that is Ujjwal Discom Assurances Yojana. So even though this has been launched, it has not benefited that much to the Discom companies. Government is further trying to infuse the liquidity in Discoms. See, and whatever has been infusion is happening, it is just to pay the dues. So therefore, if in any way we have to revive those Discoms, the one best probable thing is going for a flexible contract and having a pragmatic power tariff policy, which is a need of our to ensure viability of the power sector, also the socio-economic growth of the country. Let's look into the next article. Singapore Convention on Mediation comes into the force. See, this is popularly called as United Nations Convention on International Settlement Agreements, and this is the first UN treaty which is named after Singapore. Why is it named after Singapore? It's because Singapore government worked very closely with United Nations Commission on International Trade Law and other UN members to bring this agreement into force. So now what is the advantage of the Singapore Convention? See, whenever you have any dispute, then in such a case, you can file the cases within your country rather than going and filing in the other country. This is applicable only to those countries who have signed this agreement. So what is the advantage of this? It will definitely bring down the legal cost. It will ensure quick resolution of the disputes, so savings in the time. Apart from that, it will definitely improve the ease of doing business. It will boost the ease of doing business, and it reduces the uncertainty in the business process. Let's move on to the next article. Why is phase 3 of a vaccine trial complicated? See, as you are all well aware, University of Oxford and AstraZeneca, so they had almost prepared a COVID-19 vaccine which is undergoing phase 3 of trial. So now it was reversed, or it was stopped for a period of time. Now they are again resuming this activity. So in this context, what is most important to us is we need to understand what are the 4 different stages of vaccine testing. So before we go to the phase 1 trial, so first of all, they'll be giving these drugs to the animals like mice, rabbits, hamsters, primates, etc. So before this will happen before the phase 1. So now next one is the phase 1 trial. In the phase 1 trial, they are going to give this to a group of volunteers. Around 10 to 15 candidates this will be given, and they will closely monitor for any kind of allergy or any kind of other symptoms. So moving further, after the phase 1, they go to the phase 2 trial. In the phase 2 trial, they will give it to the hundreds of people, and here they will also decide the dosage what has to be given, because in the phase 1 they are trying to just check it out whether if it is injected to human beings, is there any kind of reactions. In the phase 2, they want to decide about what quantity of dosage should be given to get a desired results. Then comes up the phase 3. In phase 3, they start testing at the multiple locations and for the different volunteers or patients. See, usually what they do is when the drug is already existing. See, for example, for corona, we do not have any drugs, but for malaria or something, we already have a drug. So what they try to do in the phase 3, if it is for a malaria or for already existing diseases, they try to compare the results with the already existing medicines. Suppose if there is no already existing medicine, then they, in such a case, they go for a multiple location, various demographic population will be checked, and also they go for a randomized controlled treatments also. So this is how they're going for COVID-19. So in India, the same thing was happening with respect to the phase 3 trials of corona vaccine, but one of the recipient who had taken in UK had faced some allergies. So because of this, phase 3 of COVID-19 had stopped. So now again in United Kingdom, they are resuming. However, in India, they have not yet started resuming it. Moving further, what is this phase 4? We need to understand. Once phase 3 is accepted, then in such a case, the industry will start producing the medicines. In phase 4, basically we are focusing on the post-marketing surveillance. That is, once a product is given to the people, what is the results? So, and companies need to give all this information to the drug regulator. So this is how 4 phases of the vaccine trial will happen. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4.